Hello, my name is Colin Campbell. I'm from Polygon. You're looking at a very familiar game. This is Kerbal Space Program. It's been developed by a Mexico City-based publisher called Squad, and they brought it out 4 years ago on Steam Early Access. It was one of the first Steam Early Access games, and as you probably know, it was an enormous success. By the way, I should mention that I'm here at DICE in Las Vegas, and I'm recording this in my hotel room. So if you hear any weird noises, it's probably somebody cleaning the room or a motorcycle going past or whatever. But anyway, I just got back from looking at the game, and I wanted to post up this footage of the Xbox One version of the game, which I believe has not been shown anywhere else before. The Xbox One version and the PlayStation 4 versions of Kerbal Space Program are going to be coming out sometime in the next few months. I spoke to the developers and they said, look, we're trying to get it out before E3, so any time between now and June. So they're here at DICE showing it off to various members of the press, and it was fun for me to go and look at the game. I'm familiar with it. I haven't played it a ton, but it was fun to look at it as a console product. And the first question I asked was the obvious one, which is how different is this game from the console version, from the PC version that already came out? And the answer was it's not different at all. It's completely the same game. There's nothing been taken out of it. It's not like some sort of simplified version of the PC game. And the developer he said to me, he made the point that his dad tried to play the PC version and just didn't really like mucking around with the WASD keys, but is much more comfortable playing with the joypad and sitting in his own front room with the big screen TV and all that sort of stuff. So the Xbox One version, if you're interested in this game, or if you've played the PC version and you want to move over to console, is the same as the console version. And whenever there's going to be an update, the update will be pretty much the same or exactly the same as the PC version, although it might take a few more days to come out just because of the console companies and their verification procedures. So Kerbal Space Program, it's a simulation of a space program. You're in charge of engineering, logistics, physics, exploration. You are set on this planet which is inhabited by Kerbals, little creatures, or might as well be humans. And their planet is a lot like Earth. Their solar system is a lot like our solar system with a few differences. But what's really important is that everything else works exactly the same. That the physics that happen on Earth or that happen on the Moon or that happen on their Mars-like planet are the same as the ones that happen in the real world. And so what you're dealing with are sort of orbital trajectories and all the technology and the physics that come with trying to get a rocket from terra firma onto other planets. If you play the full campaign where you start off with little more than a shed and you build it up into a full space program, that achieving the achievement of getting your space program to the moon and perhaps getting it back again with all your guys intact is, he said, one of the best feelings in video games. And because it's difficult, to build up this huge program, and he said it just shows you what an amazing achievement it was getting a man on the moon 40 or 50 years ago. But there are other modes in which you can play. You can see from looking at this, looking at the game, that there are some of the game is basically just like this big Lego kit where you're inside a hangar with tons and tons of stuff in order to make rockets and spacecraft and all manner of spacecraft. And we mucked around with it together, and we made some pretty awful spaceships that didn't even get off the ground, and we made some that exploded in midair, and we made some that were successful in getting out into an orbit. And we didn't quite spend enough time to create a full space program, but that is it's one of those games where you can start off just mucking around in a sort of Minecraft type way, and you can end up basically simulating, NASA's entire space program if you really want. And they told me this anecdote about how NASA, a lot of the people at NASA are just huge fans of this game, and they've sat around playing the game at home. They've become addicted to it, and the NASA guys got in touch with this company and said, look, we're big fans. We want to do stuff with you, and so together they created a simulation of a program that NASA is actually working on right now to bring an asteroid, a mineable asteroid close to Earth, which sounds crazy to me, but they're doing it, so I'm sure it'll be just fine. So about 4 million people have bought Kerbal Space Program on the PC. About 2 million of them, according to Squad, are still playing the game. It sounds like a high number, but there's no doubt that the community that are into this game are really, really into it. There's a big modding community, and they've made all sorts of weird and wonderful mods that you can play on the PC. Now, obviously, on the console, those mods won't be available. You won't be able to just mess around with your game and add those mods on in the same sort of way. That's just one of the reasons to get a PC over a console. But if you're into that sort of thing. But what they do is they when they see a mod that they think it will go well with the final product, they hire that person or they pay that person for that mod, and it gets added to the full game. So if you're a console player, you can rest assured that you're going to get to see at least the mods which the developers think are the best. This is a real community-based project. It started off with just one guy who's really into space, and he built a very basic module where he was just sort of sticking together bits of rockets and firing them up into the sky. And now it's been expanded into this huge world, which is now not just an early access but a full game. By the way, the game is going to cost, I believe, $40 when it comes out on console, which is about the same as it is on Steam. So what goes on in this game sort of depends on you. As I said earlier, you can just mess around in the hangar and put things together and see what happens, or you can go on a much more complicated space program where you're in charge of just engineering and logistics and trying to finance your operation. And also, obviously, once you've got that stuff going and you're building all these buildings that you need to create all the modules that you need to get you up to space, to the moon, that's when the adventure really begins, because you can start exploring these planets. You can start exploring these planets with your little moon buggies or whatever, and mapping them, and then it sort of goes into a future scenario where you're building space stations and you're building extra modules. You're building an empire, basically, an empire of science on these new planets. Now, it's not possible for you to create a spaceship on Earth that's going to take you all the way out to the outer edges of the solar system. So if you want to explore the entire solar system and the outer planets, as I believe they're known to their friends, then you kind of have to build your way out there. So there is this massive campaign that's going on throughout the game, where you're trying to you're trying to build up as much science, as much logistics, as much stuff as you can. Now, the other thing that's going on with this game is when you send up little missions, you can mess around with time. You can speed up time, so you're not waiting around for 2 months for your spaceship to arrive on Mars, which would kind of suck as games go. So you've got that going for you, and also you can leave a mission and kind of go back to your hangar or to manage your logistics, but you can go back to your space program, and then you can come back to whatever your mission is later on and see it. And what I really liked about looking at this game, again, if you've played this game before, you'll be super familiar with all of this, is all the stuff about orbitals and just sort of getting a sense of space. This is really complicated physics, and to be able to play with it, to understand it in a way that I don't think you can understand by just sort of looking at books or even looking at models, it is fantastic.